Your Excellency, thank you for making us a time through all the difficult time you have and the work you have. Thank you for making a time with us to talk about our culture and the relation between Ethiopia and Azerbaijan.
I would like to thank you also for having me on your program. And I've heard a lot about your channel, and this is the opportunity when we are invited to be with you. And thank you so much for coming to Embassy of Azerbaijan, and you are most welcome to be at the embassy.
Thank you. So on the past months, on October, Azerbaijan has celebrated the Independence Day. So how was it celebrated, especially related to the COVID-19 that is all the world? I'm sure the celebration have been a bit down. So how was it celebrated back in the country in Azerbaijan and here in Ethiopia?
As you have correctly mentioned, first of all, we're celebrating in October. October 18th is the Independence Day of Azerbaijan, as the 15 republics became independent, declared their independence from the Soviet Union, and one of them was the Republic of Azerbaijan. But just a small addition to that, this is our second, actually, the declaration of independence, because the first one was in 1918, before we were occupied by the Soviet Union. So we celebrate the Independence Day of Azerbaijan in October, and we have declared our independence on October the 18th of 1991. And as you have also correctly mentioned, that this is the COVID time when you have lots of restrictions, especially when it comes to the public gathering, and especially when it comes to inviting the guests. So this kind of celebrations usually are celebrated with the members of our community, with but actually with our Ethiopian graduates. As you know, we have many of them, and as of today, we have about 55 to 60 that we are on a constant interactions with them. So we've celebrated this year in a very limited circle, in a very limited way, considering that COVID-19 restrictions and of course the regulations of the country, all this play a role, and I really hope that next year celebrations of Azerbaijan's independence will be after the post-COVID-19 world, and we will be able to compensate that celebration, in a way that we all are used to.
We hope that too. This COVID-19 have been a very struggle for so many work, not only for the celebration but for the works as well. How do you describe the bilateral relation between Ethiopia and Azerbaijan? You can give us a bit background about when Azerbaijan started from an embassy here and still today.
Our bilateral relations are excellent, and that's how we should start expressing our bilateral relations. Of course, I would like to mention three major periods for our bilateral relationship, for actually the development of our bilateral relationship, or I would say evolution of our bilateral relations. First, of course, period is during the Soviet years, during the Soviet Union. You know, Baku, which is the capital of Azerbaijan, was one of the major academic capitals of the Soviet Union. And we had more than 15,000 Africans who came to study in Azerbaijan, in Baku, in different academic areas. Of course, I would like to speak about this more later on during our interview. And among those students, there were Ethiopian students. So this is how our first interactions of a bilateral character started. It goes back to 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, so many years back. And this is how we have closely discovered Ethiopians, young Ethiopian students who came to Azerbaijan, who lived for years in Azerbaijan. There were even families who rejoined each other in Azerbaijan, I mean Ethiopian families. The kids were born So this is, I think, a very proud moment in our history. That's what I call the first period of our relations. Of course, we had also interactions on the official levels, on the levels of the cultural people, representatives of the culture, musicians, scientists. That was the first period of our relations within the Soviet, when we were part of the Soviet Union. Then comes the second period, which is post-Soviet Union, which is right after our independence. In that period of time, of course, we haven't had a lot to do in terms of the development of our bilateral relations, but of course we had some interactions on international level, on bilateral level. We had very limited interactions, but we had some sort of interactions, especially within the international organizations. Of course, these were the years, especially the 90s, when each of us had different challenges to face. We were more busy with our internal agenda because, you know, Azerbaijan was, had lots of challenges to face right after the independence. So we had to have some time for ourselves to stand on our feet, so to become a, let's say, strong, full-fledged member of the international community, so we could further develop our bilateral relations with different partners around the world. And of course comes the third period of our relationship, which is when our president has decided to establish the embassy of Azerbaijan in Addis Ababa, to strengthen our bilateral relationship, of course, to be present in the capital of Africa, so we could further interact our relations with the African countries, with the African Union. So, and of course, to actually bring our presence to Eastern Africa or Horn of Africa. So that is the last period of, but I would say the most effective period of our bilateral relationship. With the opening of the embassy, with the establishment of the embassy, different areas of our partnership, bilateral partnership, of course, started booming. I would like to start with the economic area, which is, of course, a very important area where the further of our relationship will be based upon. That, of course, there are very interesting and promising areas which has a huge potential for the development of our bilateral relationship, such as, for example, petrochemical area, energy cooperation. As you know, Azerbaijan is one of the first countries in the world to actually start the energy production in the world, first country in the world to start the offshore drilling, I mean the drilling in the sea, and which Azerbaijan believes that can share this practice and experience with the emerging new nations, especially in the area of the extractive industries. So energy area, petrochemical area, of course the agriculture. As you know, Azerbaijan has a very advanced agriculture, and so to the advanced to the level that we are now developing the e-farming, which is of course has a huge contribution to our economy, especially agriculture, and from the prism of agriculture to the economy as a whole. And when it comes to bilateral relationship on the agriculture, on the field of agriculture, we believe that there is a lot to do, because we see a huge potential, agricultural potential, especially the farming potential in Ethiopia. And I think this is quite a promising area where we can focus in the future. Of course, there are other areas such as construction. It's incredibly exciting and promising area. You know, we've had, especially in 2019 and the beginning of 2020, the companies which were visiting Addis Ababa, and not only Addis Ababa, and even the outskirts of Addis Ababa, to discover for themselves which areas and how they could be in the future potentially capable of developing this construction area businesses. And it is a very promising area for Azerbaijani businesses. They're very much interested in exploring the construction potential of Ethiopia. I think that would be another strong bond between our companies, especially in the our business communities. Because just a couple of years back, or 3 years maybe, I did a round table discussion with Azerbaijani companies, where we had around 60 Azerbaijani companies back in Baku in Azerbaijan, just trying to discover what Azerbaijani companies might be interested in. And of course, on my side, I've presented, I made a presentation, quite a comprehensive presentation of the potential of Ethiopian economy to our business leaders. And of course, I saw and I personally witnessed a huge interest in this from our business communities to take this cooperation, bilateral cooperation, to a further height. And of course, I've discovered for myself that there are many areas. We've even had 2 years back a company that came from Azerbaijan, representatives of the company who visited Ethiopia, who were mainly interested in the furniture industry because of of the potential. This is largest Azerbaijani company, biggest Azerbaijani furniture company, actually biggest in the region, with almost 300 showrooms around the world. Of course, specializing in the furniture industry. I think this is another yet promising area. So I tried to give you some examples of the areas I think that would kind of give you some idea of how we see. Of course, the food industry is another area. By the way, we import Ethiopian coffee, and we have Ethiopian coffee. It's actually a value-added product, so packed coffee. Made and packed in Ethiopia, which we sell in, which are in our markets in Azerbaijan. In the supermarkets, you can see Ethiopian coffee. And well, we in Azerbaijan know about the Ethiopia's economic potential. We know about the Ethiopia's agriculture. We know about the Ethiopian horticultural products. We know, of course, about Ethiopian coffee. So we try to discover from Azerbaijani perspective the potential of Ethiopia. And of course, as ambassador, I'm trying to represent Azerbaijan in Ethiopia, and as well as represent Ethiopia in Azerbaijan. So it's a two-way direction, building bridges actually between our two friendly and brotherly nations. Of course, there are other areas. It is the humanitarian area, especially on education area, on the scholarships, for example. As you know, that most of the periods of our cooperation, most of the the time time frame of our cooperation is mainly one of the major areas that is based upon is, of course, the education and the scholarships. As you know, President of Azerbaijan has signed a decree, a special decree on providing the scholarships to the non-aligned movement countries. And of course, Ethiopia is one of those countries. And actually, historically, we have been providing the scholarships. But right after the collapse of the Soviet Union, there was a little gap. But still, even in that period of time, we had lots of Ethiopians still continuing their education, finishing their degrees, even moving into the higher degrees. Some of them finished their masters, already started their PhDs. But starting from like 2 years back, we arranged a new set of scholarships that will provide to young Ethiopian students who at the moment are traveling. Those who have been there, like traveled last year, they are there. But those who are the new applicants or newly admitted students, so we have some now restrictions on the COVID-19. It's actually the travel restrictions, but even with these travel restrictions, we try to accommodate their comfortable education. We do it through the online education, so as soon as these restrictions will weaken, of course they will be able to travel again. But what I'm trying to say is that even you know, regardless of the COVID-19, we continue the scholarships. The scholarships are provided, and some of them have already traveled, and some of them are on the verge of travel, so I mean close to travel. I think it shows that our cooperation will. It's actually a testimony that our cooperation is going to further strengthen, and education area is a very key area, because you know, capacity building is such a strong area that it is, Azerbaijan has always been keen to invest into the capacity building area, because we believe that societies, countries, states become stronger with the strong education of the new generations. When the new generations are more educated, countries are stronger, societies are stronger, they are more independent. And this is the goal of Azerbaijan, to invest into the future of our partners. That's what we want. And of course, the major investment is always investment into education, investment into the capacity building. And that's how we would like our partners profit from this cooperation. And of course, by the way, we have seen many cases around Africa as a continent. We saw many young Africans who graduated from Azerbaijan's different universities, returned back to their countries, served their countries, and they even became high-level officials. You know, like for example, an example of the Angola, former president of Angola, Dos Santos. He's a graduate of Azerbaijan. And even if you look at the different African countries, many graduates, even in Ethiopia, I found many graduates, Ethiopian graduates from Azerbaijan universities, who have pretty high positions, who have contributed a lot to their countries, and represented in different areas. We have lawyers, we have engineers, we have petroleum and gas engineers, we have geologists, different experts. We have doctors. And believe me, since the first day I've arrived in Ethiopia, I started looking for them, and I found around 60 of them. And the first gathering at this very embassy was actually to invite all these students, and you should see this excitement. I mean, we brought around 55 at the first meeting. It was like 4.5 years ago, and you should see how, I mean, they found each other. They have recognized each other after many years. They haven't seen each other. They were even the friends who haven't seen each other for 25, 30 years. So actually what we did, we tried to bring them back, and now at this very moment they are in touch with each other after so many years of gap. I think this is a very important moment. And of course the same is going to be with the new students. We want our universities serve as a strong academic background for these youngsters, so they would get a proper education, come back to their country and serve their country. Not only serve, also contribute to their country to take Ethiopia further on its progress.
That's very lovely, especially from all the points you mentioned, from the economic relations we have and the agriculture and everything. The education is a key one. We believe that because it's an important one to change the country for a better level. And I hope Azerbaijan is going to continue giving scholarship and aid for these students as well. So the next thing, I think there's also a very interesting story regarding the bilateral relation about a very famous poet, whose mother is an Ethiopian and half an Azerbaijan. Tell us about that.
You know, the most exciting part of this story, of course, all stories are exciting, but the most fascinating part is that this poet lived in the 12th century. And so it is a testimony of our interactions, the beginning of our interactions that goes back to the 12th century, to the degree that they married and made one family. And this man, Mujahideen Beylagani, who is a very prominent poet of Azerbaijan, he grew up in a multicultural family, and he is considered one of the first contributors to the dialogue of the different cultures, because he, even in his pieces, you can find his coverage of two cultures, Islam and Christianity, because, you know, he's a product of two cultures, he's a product of two nations. And this is a very fascinating part, because he was so much ahead of his time that so much, I really mean so much, because even today, when we look at his pieces, we do realize that his pieces, his messages are valid in the 21st century. And not only valid, but can be strong guidelines how we can keep this beautiful world prospering, how we can ensure the peace and the harmony between representatives of different cultures and confessions and ethnic backgrounds. Because Mujahideen Beylagani, he passed away when he was around 60. But in such period of time, his contribution is so immense, especially to the multicultural dialogue, that his pieces, his books, his poetry is preserved in a center which is called Center of the Multicultural Dialogue, Center of the Multiculturalism in Azerbaijan. We have a special center dedicated to the multiculturalism. You know, this fascinating part actually leads to a very important moment, a very important fact, that both Azerbaijan and Ethiopia are multicultural countries. We have representatives of different confessions, we have representatives of different ethnicities, backgrounds, live in one society and serve one goal, serve the national interests of the country, so serving the motherland. So all united under one umbrella. And this moment was very crucial in the beginning of the independence of Azerbaijan, when the national leader of Azerbaijan, Haydar Aliyev, has declared the ideology, actually founded the ideology of Azerbaijanism. Azerbaijanism means, regardless of your ethnic, religious, and every background, we are all united around one country, around one goal, around our motherland. And we see the same in Ethiopia, Ethiopianism. And I think this contribution of Mujahideen Beylagani that goes back to the 12th century is, as I said, is not only valid in the 21st century, is even a strong guideline in the 21st century. As I've mentioned, Mujahideen Beylagani's father is Azerbaijani and mother is Habesha, Ethiopian. And I don't know how they met, but you know, we have this ancient Silk Road from all the way Far East Asia, all the way to West and Africa. And there has been always a movement between people. Trading, you know, they were selling coffee, they were selling flowers, they were selling spices, they were selling to each other, you know, fabrics. silk. That's why they called it Silk Road, because they were bringing some silk. Well, anyway, what matters is that we people have always interacted with each other, regardless of what technological advance we had. Even if we haven't had a technological advancement in 12th century, but we have still interacted. We have not only interacted, we built families, joint families. And Mujahideen Belagani is one example of it. For example, in some of his pieces, you can see how he's praising the Islam. In some of his pieces, you can see how he's praising the Christianity, mentioning Jesus Christ, praising the Jesus Christ. You know, this is an exceptional man with his exceptional vision for the future, who is teaching the world, who used to teach the world in 12th century and is teaching the world in 21st century how we can live in peace and harmony, regardless of all the background. So this is his major contribution to our peace today, to our world today. And by the way, we are preparing to issue one magazine soon, before the end of this year. I hope we will be able to do it, because there is lots of translation has to be done. And there is an important story, quite a long story about the Mujahideen Belagani that we have already translated from Azerbaijani to Amharic. And our plans actually include in the future to start the translation of his pieces from Azerbaijani to English and Amharic. Why specifically Amharic? Because Ethiopians, they will be very excited to know about this person, about this personality, because he is also considered a son of this nation too. And I think Ethiopians would be very much excited to know more about him. First, we're trying to introduce him as a person. Then we will bring piece by piece, introducing his pieces to Ethiopians in Amharic. So, you know, those who don't speak English and don't read English also would be able to read. And I think this is the best way, translating into Amharic, to outreach to a society as a whole. And then, after presenting his pieces, his literature pieces, to his poetry to Ethiopians, we will try to make his book available in Amharic. So people would be excited to read about him. And of course, this is going to be the introduction of their own representative to them, which they didn't know much about. You know, it's like even we ourselves we started recently. Of course, we knew him. We knew a lot about him. He even has a monument in Azerbaijan. He even has a city which is named after him. And I think that city should be quite known in Ethiopia, because he was born and raised in that city. And actually, well, probably he is named after. He took this pseudonym. You know, as in Azerbaijan, poets are taking the pseudonyms after the cities. Historically, it's been like that they were born and raised in. So, in fact, they are born with one name, but the city that they grew up, they take the name as their third or second name, which is linked to that city. We have different poets who grew. So that's why this city becomes known because of him. He becomes known because of the city. So this unity, actually, I've mentioned earlier that this city is named after him. No, actually, he is named after that city. But that city is actually proud of him. So it's like a linkage between the city and himself. Like, for example, Mujahideen Belagani or Nizami Ganjawi, who was born in another city of Azerbaijan. Actually, he had his own name, but because he was born and raised in that city, he took the name of that city as the continuation of his name. And that's how the poets were known in Azerbaijan with the cities, with the name of the cities that they were taking as a name, as a full name, in addition to their family names. So I think, and actually we have a big monument dedicated to him in the city of Bilateral in Azerbaijan. We will introduce him to Ethiopian society. We will try to keep everyone posted about him, keep everyone informed about him, because this is an exciting personality, historical, cultural, literature personality in the history of our relationship.
That's very interesting. I myself are very interested and excited to read the pieces and to know more about him. I think the follow-up question is especially related with him, the tolerance and the existence of different religion and ethnicity is going to, I think, push us to bring the current conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia. And conflicts have been everywhere, and currently in Ethiopia, a conflict have been also raised. And the world seems not in a peace place, but let's see what happened between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Give us a very short, brief, the historical background and currently what's happening.
Well, actually, this is a very important topic. As you know, this issue is in the attention of international media. But let me tell you straightforward that the international community has been silent for a long time on that issue, regardless of our warnings, regardless of our call to the international community. As you know, this conflict actually goes back to the beginning of 90s, right after the collapse of the Soviet Union. In fact, it started a bit earlier than the collapse of the Soviet Union. Well, the occupation of Azerbaijani territories by Armenia, which took place when the Soviet Union was collapsing, and a while after the Soviet Union collapsed, was seriously condemned by international community. That occupation was not only condemned, but even Security Council adopted resolutions condemning this occupation. Because, you know, as the collapse of the Soviet Union, the 15 republics of the Soviet Union were admitted to UN within its internationally recognized borders. But very soon after this admission to UN, Armenia launched military aggression against Azerbaijan, attacked Azerbaijan, and occupied 20% of Azerbaijan's territory, which is 1/5 of Azerbaijan's territory. Of course, that also this occupation ended up also in a more tragic consequence. 1 million Azerbaijanis, IDPs and refugees, were expelled from their territories. So ethnic cleansing took place. As I've mentioned earlier, the condemnation came from UN Security Council. 4 resolutions, 822, 853, 874, 884, were adopted by UN Security Council, condemning this aggression against Azerbaijan and demanding, not calling, demanding Armenia to immediately and unconditionally withdraw from the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. These resolutions were adopted unanimously by the UN Security Council. UN Security Council is the most authoritative body in the world, and of course its resolutions have to be fulfilled. But regardless of the call, international calls, and these resolutions, Armenia kept disrespecting these resolutions, so occupation continued further on up until our current days. And 30 years, almost 30 years, the occupation was there. So I would say every single international organization adopted certain resolutions condemning this aggression, demanding the withdrawal. You know, after the UN Security Council, we saw the resolution of UN General Assembly, we saw the resolution of OIC, we saw the resolution of NAM, we saw the resolution of the European organizations. Pretty much every single international and regional organizations called this as aggression and demanded immediate withdrawal. But regardless of all these calls from international community, Armenia continued the occupation. And of course, Armenia was mainly interested in keeping this conflict frozen. So, you know, to prolong the resolution of this conflict, because they knew that not a single country in this world will accept or admit the continuation of this occupation. Not even international organizations, not even the regional organizations will accept this. So, but our message, overall message to the world was that this conflict is not frozen. It will spark again, and then, you know, the threat, this is a threat to the regional security of our entire region. You know, and in 2018, you know, until the 2018, we had the peaceful negotiations. We were going through the peaceful negotiations. We actually did our best to resolve this conflict peacefully. And this peaceful resolution process, peace process, was mediated by so-called Minsk Group, which is the actually a conference, Minsk Conference, founded by Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, specifically for the resolution of this conflict. And it's mediated, actually co-chaired by United States, Russia, and France. Well, we initially thought that if this conflict, conflict resolution is co-chaired by 3 strong states, who are also, the leading states, big states, they have, you know, political weight in the world. And we thought that that might be a strong contribution to the peaceful resolution of the conflict, because in any case, we always tried to avoid the bloodshed, because we believed until the last moment that the resolution is not, resolution should be achieved peacefully. And regardless of the calls, regardless of the efforts, until 2018, we were trying to achieve, and you know, as a formula, resolution formula, we had certain ideas developed within this peace process. It was, you know, the Nagorno-Karabakh region plus 7 adjacent regions around. Overall, it constitutes 20% of our territory. So in the beginning, we agreed that 5 regions would be liberated and the Armenians would withdraw, then 2 regions, then restoring the communications, then bringing IDPs back. You know, they have been living outside and waiting for that moment to be back in their homeland for 30 years. Generations grow. But in 2018, the new prime minister of Armenia, he actually ruined the whole process. First of all, he challenged the Minsk Group co-chairs by saying that Karabakh is Armenia and period. So it was a provocation, trying to ruin or derail the peace process. Let's put it this way, ruining peace process. So taking the peace process to a different direction, a direction which is completely different what we have been doing for the last almost 30 years, 28 years, which of course frustrated the international community, frustrated the Minsk Group co-chairs. In fact, it was like not clear what is exactly trying the leadership of Armenia trying to achieve. And then it became more clear with the following provocations on the front line, attacking the civilians, attacking our facilities, military. So we understood it became clear that Armenia wants to continue the occupation of these territories and is not willing to do any compromise. And especially on the last attack on our civilian cities and the civilian infrastructure on the September 27th, we had to take counteroffensive measures. Any army in the world is obliged to protect its citizens. This is the duty of the armed forces of the Republic, to protect our civilians, to protect our cities. And we took the counteroffensive measures. And of course, as a result of counteroffensive measures, Azerbaijani army advanced and liberated many cities and villages from the occupation, which have been under the occupation for 30 years. So after 30 years, we went back to our historical territories. And you can call it enforcing the peace. Because otherwise, we saw how desperate the international community to solve this crisis. I mean, it is even more than a crisis. It's more than a conflict. It is a war. And international recognized territories cannot remain under occupation. It has to be solved either way. 1 million refugees and ITPs are waiting to be back. They have been living in camps for 30 years. Imagine, this is a human catastrophe. So, humanitarian crisis. So we had to take these counteroffensive measures, and as of today, as I've mentioned, many cities, many villages have been liberated, and the condition number one that our president has expressed is a total withdrawal and fulfillment of UN Security Council resolutions. So this is pretty much the, but unfortunately, you know, regardless of the, you know, that, we are on the battlefield, Armenia tries to compensate its losses on the battlefield by hitting and targeting the civilians. Recently, they targeted the second largest city of Azerbaijan, which is far away from the conflict zone. They have targeted the city of Barda and other cities, targeting the civilians. They hit the residential areas at night, 1 a.m. We lost 91 citizens. They were bombed while they were sleeping. It's devastating, and they were bombed by prohibited cluster bomb munitions. So as you see, as they lose in the battlefield, they turn their rockets toward the cities, which are far again, like 100 kilometers, 170 kilometers, even 300 kilometers far from the conflict zone. They bombard the cities. So that's why we are more decisive and than ever that we need to deoccupy these areas and fulfill the UN Security Council resolutions, because our foundation is international law, its principles and norms of international law, and UN Charter. This is what if Armenia will continue disrespecting the UN Security Council resolutions and international law, it has to be challenged by the international community. It has to be pushed by international community, because such things cannot be tolerated by international community. When if there is a law, it means the law it is a law, and no one is above the law. If we want to have a peaceful world, if we want to have a stable world, first of all, we need to respect the laws that we have created. We have brought them. Why we did bring the international law, why we founded international law, why these principles and the norms are important? To have a peaceful life. with the stability.
This is what we can hope for. It's like a peace come to the world as negotiations, and as you have mentioned, the laws should be respected. And I hope the international community, if they have to involve, and I hope we will see a very peaceful negotiation between Azerbaijan and Armenia, because that's what we can hope for. War has never come for any solution, and war has never been a solution except losing innocent and civilian lives. So I hope those solutions can be seen as soon as possible. Your Excellency, how long have you been in Ethiopia?
Well, you know, I have been here for a while, for a long while. I have been here like almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years.
Yes.
So what's your favorite food?
Veteran diplomat. So as you say, I enjoy very much Ethiopia. I've made lots of friends. I've met lots of nice people in this country, and overall, this is the people of this country are very warm, very welcoming. Hospitality is great. We enjoy very much. I'm here with my family, and well, I think every one of us, our team at the embassy, we very much enjoy this country because, you know, there are different important aspects. First of all, this nation has deep historical roots, has a rich culture, has a rich music, has a rich cuisine. Of course, very diverse, with different people. And I think, you know, I've had a great experience in this country. I've had, you know, high excitement living in this country. Ethiopia will always remain in our hearts. Ethiopia will always be a special place, will always have a special place in our hearts because we've had quite a long time here. But I still continue to be as ambassador of Azerbaijan. As I've mentioned earlier, one ambassador cannot only represent his country. He has to also represent and have a big respect for the country which he or she is accredited to. It's called bridge building. So that is how we have to link our people to each other. You know, as you see, we're trying different ways of linking our people. We're trying the cultural ways, cultural means. You know, there's another exciting story, a cultural story, of course. You know, cultural diplomacy is one of the most effective mechanisms, diplomatic mechanisms to make the people, to bring the people closer. And of course, you know, Mahmoud Ahmed. And of course, you've heard about his song, Almazy. You know, this song was sang first time ever by any foreigner, was Azerbaijani singer, Rashid Beyputov, in the late 60s. He visited Ethiopia and he sang this song, Almazy. And he was awarded by Emperor Haile Selassie for the excellent performance of this song. And he performed this song at the National Theatre. It was then newly built building, you know, Emperor Haile Selassie enjoyed very much performances at the, and one of the performances was dedicated to Rashid Beyputov's visit to Ethiopia. Rashid Beyputov was a great singer of Azerbaijan and even the whole entire Soviet Union. He was traveling a lot, and one of his destinations where he sang this song, Almazy, was here in Addis Ababa in late 60s. You don't have a picture of him. He's landing in Addis Ababa, and behind you can see the Ethiopian Airlines. So he has arrived with the Ethiopian Airlines. It was an incredible and exciting story. And I have also pictures of him visiting different parts of Ethiopia after his performance in Addis Ababa. Well, I think we have had lots of interactions in the past, and today I'm trying to reveal all of them to Ethiopians so we would know more what we have done. And I'm not only revealing it to Ethiopians, I'm also revealing back in Azerbaijan, actually pulling these incredible and exciting stories from the history and bringing them back to our readers, to our audiences, so they would know more how our people have interacted in the past, because, you know, future is built on the past. So with the strong legacy of the past, of past relationship, we cannot forget our history. We cannot forget our history of our bilateral relations. What is bilateral relations? It's interactions, pretty much. It is what we have done to help each other. It is what we have done to support each other. And I think we will have lots of results. And so that's why I'm in a hurry to accomplish all these projects. So I would at least tell myself that I have done something, you know, even little, but to do something to strengthen our bilateral relationship. And actually, that's why I'm here.
I hope we can continue our conversations, and especially the cultural and how Azerbaijan and Ethiopia goes back centuries ago, and that's very interesting, but time is going to limit us here. I hope we are going to meet other time discussing all these interesting stories, but for now, thank you for your precious time, Your Excellency.
Thank you so much. I again would like to express my deep gratitude to you, to your team, and of course, to your channel. I've heard lots of exciting stories about your channel, so I hope one day I will also visit you at your studio. And so thank you so much for coming, and you are most welcome at the Embassy of Azerbaijan.
Thank you.